Thanks very much for giving opportunity to kind of connect with all the distinguished guests here online. This is a major loss. I can see many of my, जो हम हिंदी में कहते हैं, कुछ बंधुवत हैं, कुछ मित्रवत हैं, कुछ गुरुजन हैं, ऐसे सब लोगों के साथ मिलने का ये अवसर था, लेकिन मेरा दुर्भाग्य है कि मैं पूरे समय आपके साथ नहीं रह पाया हूँ, लेकिन धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करता हूँ कि आपने ये अवसर दिया। मेरी टीम का जो कुछ थोड़ा बहुत काम हम लोगों ने पिछले 15 वर्षों में किया है, उसको आपके समक्ष रखें। मैं अपना वक्तव्य शुरू करूं, आप क्या कहते हैं?
हाँ, next 10 minutes are all yours.
Thanks very much. So I will share a few of the empirical studies which we have conducted with the organizations, with people, where we incorporated the Indian ideas and which have inspired, which are being inspired by the Indian wisdom tradition. So first part of my kind of submission will be about the empirical inquiry. In different forms, I'll share experiments or field studies or survey research, modeling, etc. And next part, I'll be sharing about what can take, what it will take to really establish this as a Indian perspective of management or incorporating Indian worldview or Bharatiya worldview in management. So this actually study started at MDI Gurgaon, where I was registered as a PhD scholar, and very early in the PhD program, a motto or objective was formed, that was to bring Indian wisdom into the scientific discourse in management. And Professor Jain is sitting here from my institute, where I did this work, and Professor Rajan Gupta was the guide. So the first work which we did, and Professor N.C.V. Nath used to come. I'm taking the name of Professor Nath because that time Professor Nath used to teach in the University of Professor Nagendraji. When the management PhD program was started, Professor N.C.V. Nath was one of the guides, and he came and he shared that he is interested, he is looking at the collective consciousness as a research field and applying that and seeing that in the organization, and that those conversations actually inspired to take up the first Indian wisdom-centric project on the collective consciousness of business organizations. All these works were kind of, then they were published in FT50 journals. Those are I will be referring mostly those. So this was also published in the Journal of Business Ethics, which was looking at organization. Like individuals, organizations can also have layers of consciousness. And if organization consciousness has to be conceptualized, naturally it will be at the different grades. So we conceptualize this as a market consciousness, social consciousness, and spiritual consciousness. And moral reasoning, sense of achievement, what is considered leadership, what is considered excellence, what is the ethical temperament, all that will differ in different levels of consciousness. All are correct, all are legally right, but they will be of different order. Just give you one example. At the market consciousness, business organization will consider predominantly utilitarian ethics. Nothing wrong with that. But it is different, and more evolved form of this ethics is discursive ethics, which is followed in the social consciousness level, where dialogue with the stakeholders are more important than just ensuring the maximum good for maximum number of people. And beyond that, when we talk about spiritual consciousness, It is the ethics of care which drives our action. So, and then we did some case studies, and that kind of guided our work as one of the models which is based on the Indian wisdom, collective consciousness at different levels, and seeing how the leadership development, organization development, business orientation can be defined and can be redefined based on that. The second work is on looking at is organization. There are different types of climate. So we worked on the spiritual climate and developed a construct of a spiritual climate. A spiritual climate is constituted of Swadharma, Lokasangra, authenticity, and sense of community. This was a synthesis. This was a work of synthesis of the contemporary psychology and the ancient wisdom tradition. We found that and spiritual climate, the conceptualization, skill development, all that was taken place. Again, this was published in Journal of Business Ethics. And we looked at its impact on customer service. And this idea about the customer service came from another concept which is very much there in our wisdom tradition, that is seva. So seva and quality and efficacy and efficiency, these are also valued in the Indian, greatly valued in the Indian tradition. So seva became employee service, and we looked at its impact on banks, and we found that bank branches in the same bank, when their difference in the spiritual climate reflected in the customer's experience. And so similarly, we replicated this work using different outcome variable. So spiritual climate is found to be impacting the learning in teams, innovative behavior. And so spiritual climate, which is based on Swadharma and Lokasangra, can be operationalized. And I have had opportunity of working with some of the organizations in manufacturing sector, in service utilities sector, where they incorporated this in their performance management system, incorporate that in the training and development system, started valuing that, and it is something which people are able to connect with very well. After that, we worked on the mindfulness. Mindfulness is very well accepted construct. Mindfulness is the gift of the Buddhist tradition to the world, and a lot of studies are conducted in the mindfulness. We looked at one very pertinent problem. I'll share two things about. One is the moral reasoning. We were working on the problem how we can make so in 2013 in our school there was a debate whether we should have an ethics course in our syllabus or not, because one group of the faculty member was saying that there need not be any separate ethics course, because number one, you cannot teach ethics. Number two, ethics have to be anyway part of the other courses. So marketing professor should teach marketing ethics, and finance professor should teach finance ethics. But then the debate went on, and there's no time to actually explain what were the different arguments, but that precursor is moral reasoning. Moral reasoning operates at 6 levels. I can work to avoid loss, I can work to seek benefit, I can take decision which is according to the group norm, I can take work, I can decide something which is according to the law. Then 5th level is I can work when it is following the core values, the basic values of truth, duty and goodness. And last level we can do it universal ethics. What is the universal consciousness talking? If everybody in this world start working like this in this situation, will this world be a better place? These are the 6 levels of moral reasoning, Kohlberg's. It was a pleasant surprise. I think one of the researcher's job, which is researcher's life, which is mostly a boring life, very few moments occur when you feel the excitement and You see the dynamism. When the result came, we conducted this with the two groups, two sections of our students, and one group was experiment and one was control group, and one group was given the mindfulness treatment. Sorry, this is being called treatment. This is actually a practice. Within 7 weeks, the control group moved from 311 to 317, and experiment group moved from 312 to 349. If I reflect in last 6 years or 7 years, I am mostly working in the field of yoga and mindfulness. It is because of that moment. It was so kind of powerful when we saw the result. So the mindfulness practice, yoga practice, and then we realized that actually if I am the part of this culture, mindfulness is just one component of yoga tradition. The in yoga tradition, we talk about swadhyaya, we talk about dharana. That is the mindfulness. It should not be presented as the final answer to all the question and thing incomplete in itself. So instead of just following mindfulness, we worked on the Ashtanga Yoga. It is difficult to publish in the Ashtanga Yoga, but if not us, who else will do that? We worked on the Ashtanga Yoga, and within the Ashtanga Yoga, we cannot ensure that all components can be given the intervention on all the components can be given in a course. So we call it yoga-based practices, because this is not a complete yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, but yoga-based practices. Those practices are pranayam, a little bit of meditation, और basically जिसको meditation कहते हैं वो मुख्यतः धारणा ही है. तो थोड़ा धारणा का practice, समता meditation उसको literature में कहते हैं, थोड़ा प्राणायाम, थोड़े आसन. उस practice से we have conducted at least 7 experiments, and we found that even the 7-8 weeks of practice results into more flourishing, more psychological capital, more helpful behavior, and all it is assessed by the peer groups. It is not the self-report only. Creative problem solving, and now we are looking at impact on the decision-making process. So, and then there is another work about the impact of Karma Yoga. So one of my students, Ajinkya Navare, Dr. Ajinkya Navare, who is in the SP Jain, he said that you have worked only 2 aspects, Swadharma and Lokasangraha. That is not the complete Karma Yoga. We need to look at the psychological process of Karma Yoga, and then he identified from the 10-11 interpretations of Bhagavad Gita, Indriya Nigraha, Palashatyag, Samabuddhi, Swadharma and Lokasangraha. These 5 components make the psychological process of Karma Yoga, and we looked at its impact on positive psychological outcomes, and it is shown results in the enhanced psychological capital, means positivity, hope, resilience. It also clearly reflected the lower score on the burnout. So in a nutshell, these are something which are kind of there in the field. Swadharma, Lokasangraha, Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, mindfulness. These are things which can be straight away implemented in the organizations. I'll be very happy and rather grateful the business leaders who are present there. I'll be very happy to kind of collaborate. Many of the scholars have also worked on that to see how these things can be implemented in the organizations. And I'm sure world is waiting for these models. These are anyway working. It is only a matter of refinement and presenting it to the world. So here my 10 minutes are over. Thank you very much again.